Avatar Airbender is an Intamin surf rider coaster that opened in 2008 at Nickelodeon Universe at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. It's one of the only half-pipe coasters in the US, only joined by its exact clone at the other Nickelodeon Universe, Timmy's Half-Pipe Havoc, and Half-Pipe at Elitch Gardens in Colorado, which is a larger model since it's outside. This particular model is themed around the popular animated TV show that was out when the ride originally opened, and also when the park transitioned from Knott's Camp Snoopy to Nickelodeon Universe. This model is really useful for indoor parks that are limited on space, and this makes use of that tiny footprint very well. It even has another coaster, Pepsi Orange Streak, going right through the middle of it, just passing over the main ride platform where riders board the massive surfboard-like ride vehicles. It doesn't have much theming aside from a decent entrance area and the elements of fire and air represented on the ride vehicle itself. The restraints are actually pretty bulky over-the-shoulder restraints, very similar to the ones on most of their accelerator models, such as the recently blown-up King Ka. The stats seem fairly modest, but the ride is basically a giant U-shaped piece of track that goes above 70 feet, and the ride vehicles go pretty much to the very top of each spike on each side when it goes fully and features a launch in the middle to get you up that high. Now that we got stats out of the way, let's see how it rides. The ride begins with a launch to get you slightly up one of the spikes and keeps increasing speed with each booster launch until you reach the top of them. These spikes are pretty much vertical, so you get a lot of good floater airtime on each successive pass. The individual six-person cars also spin during your ride, making it a very similar feeling to a Zamperla Disco, but this definitely feels more intense and has way better airtime. It is definitely a very repetitive and flat ride-esque roller coaster, but this ride easily gives the best and certainly the most airtime in the park because of it. You continue this cycle for about 80 seconds before you slow to a stop in the middle of the two spikes and can disembark on the other side of the ride vehicle. Overall, this coaster doesn't really feel like a traditional roller coaster, but much more like a flat ride. It has very similar feelings to that of a Zamperla Disco, or even a giant discovery such as the newly opened Joker Carnival of Chaos at my home park of Six Flags St. Louis. Still, I would definitely class it as a roller coaster since it has actual track and is fully gravity powered at the tops of those spikes, unlike discos which are fully powered throughout its layout. This is honestly my second favorite coaster at the park due to all of its really solid airtime, but a very distant second to Rock Bottom Plunge, which is a much more complete and diverse ride. This ride is certainly smoother than that one though, and honestly maybe a little more re-rideable, as long as you don't get too bored of the ride cycle. The spinning certainly helps the ride seem less repetitive and gives riders different angles into the spikes during each pass, which is a cool feature. This is a great model to have for parks with limited space, and honestly you can't make a much better coaster with this tiny of a footprint. It's definitely worth a ride or two during a visit to Nickelodeon Universe. Be sure to subscribe for more content and be on the lookout for more coaster reviews and other theme park videos in the near future.